and welcome to Joseph's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like, follow, or subscribe to any of the videos I put out there. I just put them out there where I can and have a holly jolly great time doing so. Also, the additional bit of housekeeping that we always do when I'm standing on this side, just above the Faulty Towers loop, is regarding what's going on up here with this thing. It's because the end of the cabinet's quite sharp and I'd hate to come along and strike my noodle head on it and have a bit of an ouchie. Now, we've talked about that in an earlier video, talking about underneath the layout, what we did to protect your noodle down there so you don't bump into the wrong thing. And I've yet to do the top section. So I mentioned it in plenty of other videos when I've been standing in this vicinity. Your model railway needs a model railway. No, you're not seeing triplicate. There are 3 videos. They're all exactly identical except for the bit that you've just seen previous, where I refer to model railway, model railroad, and train set. These are the 3 common things I've noticed, and this is a slight experiment with YouTube, so don't panic too much. It's only for my benefit. Just like, why am I talking about trains when I'm at the model airport? Well, the simple fact is, it's just for me. Don't panic. It doesn't matter what video you prefer to choose. For the Americans, I know you like to use the term railroad. The UK, usually it's railway. And for old school people like me, trains are just trains, and we've called it a train set. That's all that's about. Back to your regular viewing. But it's obviously going to be a pretty special occasion today. I have one of my favorite shirts on that has the distinctive white paint mark on it, so it must be a good one. Well, what we're going to introduce you to today, of course, as we're still under construction of the Faulty Towers Hotel itself, is we only have 2 of these left now, and I'm referring to these corners. Now, I have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed building scenery for these little, what is a wasted end of the layout. I mean, a bit of greenery and some trees and that, sure, absolutely no problems at all. But I've really taken great time to create stories into each and every one of these. We've got the bowling alley, as you can probably just see off to the end of the camera there. We've got an equestrian scene going on here. We've got the golf tee box on one side and then the golf putting on another side on the other side. And we're over to here today. We also have one more empty section that's over at the Dad's Army cricket pitch, which I'm still not too sure. It's where the track also trails down to go down to the fiddle yard. So it's not a big space, and I'm not too sure what we're doing there at the moment. But this, I know what I am doing. So we've obviously got Faulty Towers up here. The road goes off into town and all the rest. And those that might be guests at the hotel or walkers and that, we've got a trail sign that you can't see in the picture, although you might see one if I take one here. And they can come for an afternoon stroll down the hill, and it's a nice, safe situation. And what I was going to have was it just walks into maybe a national park or something like that. Maybe it's some additional car parking down here and commuters that are coming and catching a train. I don't think so. But it is a proper illuminated, wheelchair accessible, if you like. I don't know how they're going to go up the rest of the hill. Pedestrian crossing on the train line itself. So it's going to come down. And I did want to put some larger types of trees like this into place, sort of frame it off, and it comes down into a nice trail, and away we go. Well, yes, I'm still going to have some big trees lined across the edges, but what I thought this could be just one of the other entrances into the community's botanical gardens or zoological gardens that may exist somewhere in this vicinity. And then it really got me thinking and saying, well, maybe we might be able to elevate it even more. Trees around here, a bit of grass, as they usually have that common area. And then it got me thinking to one of the favorite things I love seeing in so many towns, up to and including, if we take a look at a few shots here, even my local town is now going to be introducing its own Feld Bahn or model railway, model miniature locomotive type of community with the smaller trains that people get on and ride. There are lots of different scales, don't get me wrong. Like here are some in Maryborough with the Maryborough Engineer Society, and these are the smaller ones that have on a concrete, little concrete slabs around the Queen's Park little concrete track with the steel track on them running around Queen's Park in Maryborough. Of course, if we go down to Taralgon, down in the Latrobe Valley, in the gardens there, they've got ones they get on and ride, and there's different sized and scaled ones depending on what people do. In fact, I believe there's a larger scale one to be had if you're visiting Pecorama, where the home of Peco is. There's lots of these different types of community types of railways that people come together and build. And I think there's so many different scales and grades. And we actually have enough room on this property. I could probably do it. And if I had the property 10, 15 years earlier than what I have now, while I still had a bit more energy in my legs, I would have liked to have tried to have attempted something like that. But it is an investment of time and some money, and any engineering skills you can bring to it are only going to work in your favor. Well, that's fantastic. We've got this spot, and I just thought we could have the pedestrian thing comes and welcomes through the trees and into an entrance to a park. It comes down, maybe a little mini railway crossing for the pedestrians. The train tracks coming through it with a little kit, something like that. It's not moving. This is completely static. There's no moving parts or anything like that. But I thought it would really create quite a nice little bit of interest to be had here. Well, that's the plan anyway. So then I got noodling. I was going to originally put sort of an end scale or something down, but wouldn't you know it, I discovered this tremendous kit from Busch, Feld Bahn set. So basically what we have here is a little miniature locomotive. I'm quoting that from Peppa Pig, you understand, with Grandpa Pig. And we have a little thing and a few little wagons here that we could, put some people in or around. And I think we could have a whole bunch of fun. Now, it's a rather interesting little kit here because it also comes with the track work to make a whole oval here. We've got the little bits and pieces that we need. And I thought we could turn this into something. That's the plan anyway. I also have another little surprise as well. I thought we might be able to add a little more interest to. So that's what we're going to get up to today and get started. This isn't all going to happen in one video. As you well know, they very rarely do. But that's what we're going to do. So join me now and let's get stuck into the project. Right, well, here is our canvas to work on. And my plan of attack is we've obviously got the slight slope as this ramp goes up. And I'm basically going to do a series of these types of trees to sort of line it around the edge of this park, so to speak, and then open to that common grassy area, flower bed or something where the train line's passing through, and try and put a pedestrian crossing. This is all getting a bit ambitious, isn't it? So we'll put in an N scale pedestrian crossing to sort of mimic that kind of pedestrians don't cross if it's flashing. We don't want you to get hit by a train. So sounds fascinating, I won't lie to you. And I've got a few other tricks up my sleeve as well. But first of all, like all good projects, we're going to need to get some foundation in. We're not going to do the board because I need to get up to some heights to create that kind of slope off where the trees are going to be. So to do that, as always, we're going to use a piece of the foam board. This was obviously a cut we did with the bowling alley or something, I don't really know. As you can see, there's not enough here. So we're going to need to take a sheet of baking paper out or parchment paper, mark in some rudimentary measurements of how it's going to be. And on this video, I think we'll pay some special attention to how I actually get this shaped to fit the scene. I always talk about I'm outside and I'm sanding and that, but I'll actually go through the process because we're also going to have to, this is going to be a very custom piece. It needs to slope onto an angle to sort of follow it down as well. So while it seems like it's flat, it still needs to be raised by about 1/4 of an inch for the most part, and then a bit of slope there, and also shaping it down for this little section. Silly, wasn't it? I dropped the camera and it absolutely crushed the fencing. I think what we're going to have to do is, I can't really fix that. I'll turn it into a scene, maybe like a rider or something has crashed into it, or a tree's come down or something. Just know that I'm working on something to correct this situation. That's the last of my fencing, so I can't just slap some new fencing down. As you can see, it's I can sort of bend it into place, but I think we can create a scene out of it. This, I'm pretty sure, is the paper we use to work out the bowling alley curve just across from us here. So it's not a bad little template. We're going to do something a little bit different with it. And you can probably just make out a faint little line, which of course is where our street lamp is. And unlike the bowling alley, obviously this lip comes in a bit more, so we're going to shape to fit it. I got a few surprises I think we're going to still include here I've just been thinking about. But we can still use this as a template. So let me just cut this section out and then we can scribe in where we're going to need to work with the height.
Brush your teeth round and round. Circles small, gums and all. A small soft toothbrush the round and round way will keep your gums healthy and stop tooth decay. So clean very carefully 3 times a day. Go round and round, yeah, round and round.
Success! I found an offcut here. In fact, I would think it was probably the piece that went right there from memory. But checking our measurements, of course, we're easily going to fit it into this section. And let's get this cut up and start shaping it in. So now we take that piece of baking paper and I just pop a few little pins to sort of trace it out, mark it out with a marker, and we carve it out. I'm not going to lie, I did break the first one and I've actually taken a second one because I went too low and started again. Okay, well, I did have to do a second cut here, as you can see. And here's the piece we've basically got. We're ready to start shaping it now, and we'll do that with our sanding block at the moment. Now these little ends are always delicate. I always point this out. If you're going to lay a Mod Podge or something down to reinforce it, I always think it's good. Put a pop stick down, a skewer, something so you're not snapping it off. Once you get going with the build, it's going to stiffen up a bit, but it is something to be aware of. Let's check it out. Not too bad at all. A little bit of a rise there because we want to create that where the trees are, so we want to keep this end bit here a little bit higher, and then we're going to sort of drop down a little bit into the sort of park area. And the crossing, we still need to come down quite a bit more on this one, so we'll keep shaving that back a bit more. Oh, that's going to take too long. Let's fast forward. So we are using these 100 grit sandpaper, but we really need to make some gnarly maneuvers. So we go down to the 40 grit there, and that really, as you can see, the blue in the bottom of the bin starting to really take good shape here. You got to be a bit gentle, but once you've got it, you can come back to the 100, which you can see here, and we just sort of smooth and soften it out nicely. All right, let's get this rubbish in the bin. I actually found some scrap of this, which I knew I had, but I think we won't use it. So I had a spare packet anyway, and I was more inclined to use this with the edging, which I can obviously just cut off the end anyway. Whatever. We're far from that section just in the moment. Let's get our little wedge into place. Yes, that's quite nice for that slope I was looking for there. Now, I've got a little bit of, you can probably see that wiggle there. Let's take one of the spare shims we had from DCC Concepts. Just see if this magnet will stick to it. So that's my idea. Well, of course it sticks, Joseph. That's what that process is all about with the power base. Okay, a quick spritz of wet water. Find the glue. Glue. Clear Gorilla Glue. And let's get that into position. We'll lock the magnet down later. Someone was at the door, but you can see we've just put that shim down and put a weight on it. I'd pretty much say that that's good to go at the moment, but we'll leave that to keep drying a little bit longer. And we'll use one of these little magnets, and the spot I've marked it out will need to go is here, and that'll snap down nicely. But we won't glue that in quite yet as we keep shifting things in and out.
Okay, well let's unbox this kit. So we've got these lengths of track. There's actually quite a bit. There's some points as well, so you could certainly build yourself a nice oval and a few sidings or something like that. And it's worth noting as we're cutting the track off the sprue here just to get a basic measurement before we carry on. And this is looking pretty much what I had in mind. We'll obviously have a noodle over it, tap the board, well I think to say, yes, let's put a bit of a cork underlay under it. We'll trim something to size. Quick measurement here and a quick snip here, and let's get something happening. But as I was saying, it's worth noting, they actually make this exact thing, which is known as HO, lowercase f is the scale. And they actually have a motorized one, so you can buy it with points in that. Starter kit's about $300. So if you really wanted to go down to that fine scale detail in this miniature thing, it's a grade above N scale, and it's obviously smaller than HO, but something to explore. But of course, PVA straight down. I had to cut the cork into thinner strips to get these gnarly bends we're going to work on. And now here comes the important bit. This is going to be the pedestrian walkway. It's straight in PVA and pins to hold it down. Then we're just going to come along, take a little bit of the putty. There were a few bits that weren't quite hitting the smoothness or the height I needed, so we'll leave that to dry at the moment and just smooth it out. So when you look down with the eye, we've got a reasonably kind of flat surface that this would sit on. Again, this isn't an operational one, but I think it goes with a little bit of detail, and here you can see, and I think we'll call that the end of the line in this video.
Well, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, as always, that's going to do us for yet another video. And I must tell you, it feels absolutely wonderful to be getting stuck into another project like this. And especially because it's right at the front. In fact, as you come through the door, pretty much where the camera is, bang, there's faulty towers, but it's the first sort of corner you're going to hit off. So I'm really going to try and jam pack a whole lot of interest into this scene as much as I can. Certainly since we had the opening discussion, there's a few more things that have come across. I've got a few different bits and pieces on order, and I'm certainly at least partway through the project, which is sitting below me, which you can't see, and it's starting to get a bit interesting. But obviously we've got a base now carved, and we're going to move to the next video where we start doing the earthwork. So that's certainly going to be next in our little journey on this line, so to speak, but it is the end of the line for the video. So as always, thank you so much as always for joining me on this one, and I certainly do look forward to seeing you in that next one. Please do stay safe. Toodles!